Ever notice how certain people glide through rooms like they own them? Nobody talks over them. Their boundaries are treated like locked doors. Their time somehow weighs more on the scale than everyone else's. What makes them different? Here's the uncomfortable truth. It's not luck, it's not looks, and it's not a secret niche or IQ score. It's a single psychological move you were never taught. So simple, you'll almost be mad you didn't see it sooner. You've seen the opposite play out 1,000 times. Someone cuts the line, and you swallow it. A friend flakes for the 3rd time, and you crack a joke so they won't feel bad. A coworker borrows your idea, and you let the room move on. In tiny moments like these, you're teaching the world your price, and the price you're advertising is free. You're signaling that access to you comes with no toll, no terms, no consequence. Meanwhile, the people who never seem to deal with nonsense aren't just lucky, they're deliberate. They understand a principle that Machiavelli wrote down 5 centuries ago and that modern psychology still hasn't improved upon. If crossing you costs nothing, people will do it often. If crossing you carries a consequence, they will pause. Respect is not a vibe. It's a prediction others make about what happens if they ignore your lines. Let's talk about why chasing being liked makes you weak without you realizing it. When your main aim is approval, you become predictable. People can forecast your response like weather in a desert. They know you'll nod even when you disagree. They know you'll laugh it off even when you're insulted. They know you'll show up even after they showed you you're not a priority. And the moment you're predictable, you're replaceable. It's brutal, but true. Think about who you respect. Is it the person who bends into whatever shape you prefer? Or the one who stands in their own shape, with or without your applause? Human nature is stubborn. We value what is scarce, and we dismiss what is always available. When you run after approval, you flood the market with yourself. You turn your time and attention into a cheap commodity, and the market responds accordingly. Machiavelli's famous line, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both," gets twisted a lot. He didn't mean terror or cruelty. He meant clarity. Fear here is simply the recognition of consequence. People respect a teacher with standards, a boss who keeps promises and penalties, a friend who tells you the uncomfortable truth, a partner whose yes means yes and whose no actually closes the door. These people aren't tyrants. They're consistent. And consistency plus consequence equals respect. Here's a hard diagnosis. Chronic people-pleasing is often a disguised grab at control. When you try to keep everyone happy, you think you're steering the ship. No conflict, no waves. But you're actually handing over the wheel. You let other people's moods dictate your moves. You let the hope of being liked override your own boundaries. You become malleable clay in the hands of stronger sculptors. So why do we fall into the trap? Biology plays a part. Approval triggers dopamine. Every compliment like or "you're amazing" gives you a hit. Then you need another. Savvier people sense it and learn to pull your strings for very little cost. Praise becomes a coupon they use to redeem your time, compliance, and silence. It's not that compliments are bad, it's that dependence on them makes you easy to program. Let's flip it. What if you could move through conversations and choices without needing anyone's green light? What if you could hold your frame, calm, cold, kind when appropriate, firm when needed, regardless of how others react? That is the beginning of true power, not dominance over others, but sovereignty over yourself. The difference is night and day. When you want to be liked, other people decide your worth in real time. When you demand respect through consequence-backed boundaries, you decide your terms in advance. Here's the model that actually works in the real world. 1. Respect. Approval. Admiration is cheap and floats with trends. Respect is earned by the consistent enforcement of your boundaries. You don't need to explain those boundaries with a TED Talk. You just apply them. No drama, no essay. just action. 2. Consequence, conversation. The first time someone disrespects you is a teaching moment for them. If your response is a smile and a nervous explanation, you taught them you're safe to disrespect. If your response is a swift, proportional consequence, reduced access, a clear no, a declined invite, you taught them the opposite. 3. Scarcity, availability. Your time, attention, and presence are the currency of your life. Unlimited supply collapses value. Selective presence raises it. You don't need to be cold. You do need to be costly. Let's walk this into everyday life so it's not just theory. They interrupt you repeatedly. Old pattern, laugh, shrink, let them steamroll. New pattern, pause, hold eye contact, finish your sentence without raising your volume. If it continues, say, "I'll share when we're not talking over each other," and disengage. No lecture, just a boundary with teeth. They cancel on you last minute. Again, old pattern. No worries while your evening evaporates. New pattern. All good, let's skip next week, my calendar's tight. Future invites get, "I'm not available." The message lands. Your time is not a free buffet. They take credit for your idea. Old pattern, resentment and silence. New pattern. To build on what I proposed earlier, then restate the core point with specifics. If it's chronic, you shift to written contributions and CC the right people. You don't argue for credit. You document and own. None of that requires aggression. It requires neutrality, consistency, and follow-through. Think fox and lion, the Machiavellian blend. The fox notices traps. The lion discourages wolves. Strategy first, force rarely, clarity always. Let's address a fear that keeps a lot of people stuck. If I stop chasing approval, won't I lose people? Yes, the ones who are there to exploit your softness. That's not a loss, that's a filtration. When you stop running the vending machine of endless yeses, the customers who only brought quarters will leave. The ones who value you will adjust, pay full price, and treat you accordingly. Control is the real battlefield. Every interaction includes a tug of war over who sets the terms. Approval-seeking hands the rope away. Boundary-backed respect plants your feet. When you need someone to like you, they can puppet your emotions. Guilt, flattery, silence, sudden coldness, until you dance. When you don't need it, they lose their levers. That's why calm is so powerful. The person who stays cold under pressure isn't emotionless. They're unhookable. And that is terrifying to manipulators. There's another payoff to giving up the addiction to being liked. Your thinking clears. Decisions stop running through the filter of, "Will this upset someone?" and start running through the filter of, "Is this right for me?" Paradoxically, your relationships improve in quality. Some will end, and should. The rest will deepen, because they're built on reality rather than performance. People can finally know you, not the mask that keeps morphing to be accepted. Let's translate this into a few rules you can adopt immediately. Rule 1. Speak less, act more. Over-explaining is a timid person's armor. It never works. If someone crosses a line, act. Reduce access. Change the terms. Keep your voice low, your message clear, and your feet moving. Rule 2. Never chase approval. No double texting to repair vibes you didn't break. No long essays when someone goes cold. No bargaining for validation. Your silence says more than your paragraphs ever will. Rule 3. Stay cold under fire. Provocations are fishing lines. Don't bite. Respond with brevity or not at all. Your calm is a closed door. Rule 4. Be strategically unpredictable. Never be reliably soft or reliably harsh. Be appropriately both. That uncertainty keeps would-be controllers off balance. Rule 5. Enforce fast, explain little. A quiet, immediate consequence teaches better than a lecture. Reserve explanations for people who've shown they deserve them. Finally, let's talk scarcity and distance. Most of us were trained to believe that always available equals lovable. In reality, it reads as low value. The less people see of you, the more carefully they use the time they get. The less you say yes, the more your yes matters. The less you forgive on command, the more your forgiveness means when it's offered. You don't have to perform aloofness. You just have to align your calendar and attention with your priorities, not with the loudest requests. In practice, don't sprint to reply. Reply when you're ready. Don't attend everything. Attend what serves your goals or your genuine joy. Don't help indiscriminately. Help the grateful, the reciprocal, the serious. That's not rude. It's accurate pricing. Your energy is a finite asset. Price it like one. If this sounds harsh, remember, we're not talking about becoming cruel. We're talking about becoming sturdy. Someone whose kindness comes from choice, not fear. Whose yes is generous because their no is real. Whose presence is valued because it isn't automatic. Machiavelli put it cleanly. Men judge more by the eye than by the hand. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you are. Appear clear. Be clearer. Let people see that access to you is a privilege, not a right. So here's your first shift. Stop measuring your day by how many people liked you. Start measuring it by how consistently you honored your standards. If someone disrespects you, let the consequence introduce itself. If someone pushes for more access, make them earn it. If someone tries to yank your strings with praise or pressure, cut the strings. Drop this line in your notes, and if you're posting in the comments, so it sinks in. Respect over approval. When you start living that sentence, you'll feel the terrain tilt. People will watch their words around you. Invitations will come with more care. Opportunities will meet you halfway instead of making you chase them. Most importantly, your sense of self will come home to the only place it ever belonged, with you. Affirmation: respect over approval. Now that we've stripped the illusion off being liked, let's step into what actually builds power: respect. And I don't mean the polite surface-level respect people throw around when they're trying to keep the peace. I'm talking about the deep, instinctive kind that changes how others move around you. The kind that makes people hesitate before they test you because they already know the cost. Here's the formula most people never figure out. Respect equals consequence. It's not about admiration, charisma, or achievements. Those things might win you compliments, but they don't make people check themselves before stepping on your toes. Real respect comes from people knowing that if they cross you, they will lose something: your time, your cooperation, your access, or your trust. If nothing happens when they cross the line, then there is no line. Think about the patterns in your own life. When someone disrespected you and you shrugged it off, what happened next? Did they suddenly treat you better? No. They repeated the behavior because you accidentally trained them that disrespect is free when it comes to you. When someone crossed the same line again and again, and you forgave endlessly, what did they learn? They learned that the cost of hurting you is zero, and if hurting you costs nothing, then why would they stop? Contrast that with people who command respect in your world. They might not even raise their voice, but everyone knows the deal. If you cross them, you lose access, or the tone shifts, or the door closes. These are the people others describe as not the one to play with. That aura isn't magic. It's the consistent application of consequence. This is why the nicest people often end up disrespected the most. They train everyone around them that their niceness is unconditional. their forgiveness automatic, their patience endless. And once someone is seen as safe to disrespect, respect becomes impossible. But when you flip the script, when you show that your patience is valuable, not infinite, people recalibrate fast. Suddenly, your time matters. Your words carry weight. Your presence feels scarce and important. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that he who deceives will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived." Translate that. People will treat you exactly how you let them treat you. The necessity is consequence. If you enforce it, people adapt. If you don't, they exploit. There's no middle ground. The beauty of respect is that it's self-reinforcing. The first time you enforce a boundary, it's hard. You'll doubt yourself. You'll worry you were too much. But the second time is easier, and by the fifth time, it's automatic. The cycle runs in your favor. Demand respect, get respect. Demand it more easily, get it more often. Your reputation begins to precede you. People learn without you saying a word. This is where respect separates itself from approval. Approval is dependent. You beg for it, wait for it, hope for it. Respect is independent. You establish it by what you allow and what you don't. Approval puts others in control. They decide whether to give it to you. Respect puts you in control. You decide the standards. That's why respect is power. It doesn't require their permission. It requires your discipline. Think of the people you respect most. They don't run around saying, "Respect me." They don't explain endlessly why they deserve it. They simply refuse to entertain disrespect, and the refusal itself becomes their authority. That's the real dark power of respect. It's quiet, unspoken, and undeniable. Now let's break down the psychological mechanics at play. Every interaction you have, every conversation, every decision, every relationship is ultimately about control. Who sets the terms? Who reacts and who acts? Who walks away with their frame intact? And here's the kicker. If you don't know who's in control, it's not you. Approval seekers lose control by default. Every time you alter your behavior to earn someone's smile, you've handed over control. Every time you silence your opinion to keep the peace, you've surrendered control of your voice. Every time you say yes when your gut screams no, you've given away control of your choices. Multiply those moments, and your entire life ends up built on someone else's blueprint. The people who don't need approval, they keep control. They speak their mind without waiting to see if it lands softly. They make choices based on their values, not the crowd's mood. They set the terms of interaction, where, when, how long, and others adapt. That's why approval addiction is so dangerous. It doesn't just cost you dignity, it costs you sovereignty. You become a puppet pulled by strings you can't even see. Here's a mental image. When you crave approval, you hand out remotes. Each person in your life gets a button that controls your self-worth. One can push guilt. Another can push flattery. Another can push silence. They press, you react. But when you stop needing approval, you take back the remotes. Suddenly, their buttons do nothing. They can try to guilt you, but you won't bend. They can flatter you, but you won't overgive. They can ignore you, but you won't chase. The game changes completely, and that's when you start to look unpredictable. Approval seekers are predictable. You know exactly what they'll do when ignored or criticized. They'll try harder. They'll bend more. They'll smooth the edges. But someone who doesn't need approval? They're a wild card. They might walk away. They might challenge you. They might laugh. You don't know. That unpredictability is intimidating. And intimidation, whether you like the word or not, is a form of respect. Machiavelli put it like this: Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. When you stop living for appearances, you stop performing the puppet act. You become a real, solid figure in the room. People can't read your script anymore, and when they can't predict you, they have to respect you. So, what happens when you break the cycle? 3 major shifts. 1. You become unmanipulable. Guilt trips, silent treatments, fake compliments, they all lose power. Without the need for approval, the hooks don't catch. 2. Your decisions sharpen. Instead of, what will make everyone else happy? You ask, what's best for me? The fog clears, and choices get simpler. 3. Your relationships filter. Some people will vanish. Frustrated they can't pull your strings anymore. Let them go. They weren't here for you anyway. The ones who stay are the ones who respect you for real. This is where respect transforms your life, not just your mindset. Suddenly, people treat your words as final. Invitations become requests instead of demands. Opportunities come your way, not because people like you, but because they trust you won't grovel for them. Stress levels drop because you're no longer micromanaging every emotion in the room. And most of all, you gain psychological freedom, the ability to be yourself without apology or disguise. But to get here, you'll have to give up something. Your addiction to approval. That's right, addiction. Approval works on your brain the way a drug does. A compliment hits, dopamine spikes, you feel good. The high fades, you need more. The cycle repeats. People notice, and they start to trade crumbs of validation for chunks of your energy. They're paying you in cheap currency, and you're buying it like it's gold. Here's the brutal truth. Validation costs nothing to give, but costs you everything if you depend on it. Anyone can say, "You're so kind." Anyone can toss a like, drop a heart, say, "You're the best." It's cheap to them, but for you, it becomes oxygen. And once it becomes oxygen, you'll do whatever it takes to breathe it again. Meanwhile, the people who don't need validation are free. They don't adjust their personalities depending on who's in the room. They don't bite their tongue just to avoid raised eyebrows. They're consistent, authentic, whole. And ironically, because they don't chase being liked, they're more likely to be genuinely liked. Their presence feels solid instead of needy. Their words carry weight instead of seeking applause. And their relationships thrive because they're real. Breaking the addiction isn't comfortable. Your brain will rebel. It'll whisper, "You'll end up alone if you stop trying." It'll tell you you're being harsh for enforcing boundaries. It'll urge you to cave for the sake of peace. But peace bought with self-betrayal is just another form of war, one where you're the casualty. So here's the discipline. Practice being disliked. Not recklessly, not rudely, just unapologetically. Let someone misunderstand you without correcting them. Let someone be mad at you without smoothing it over. Let someone walk away rather than bending to keep them close. Each time you do, you weaken the addiction's grip. And each time you weaken it, you grow stronger. Drop this line in the comments or write it somewhere you'll see it. My validation comes from within. When that sentence stops being just words and starts being your reality, you'll feel it. A kind of calm power that doesn't need to be announced. The kind of presence that draws genuine respect. The kind of strength that makes people realize you're not someone who can be bent, bought, or programmed. You've cut the strings, and now you move on your own. Affirmation. My validation comes from within. So, now that we've exposed the trap of chasing approval and the addiction that comes with it, let's move to the practical side. How do you actually shift from someone who gets overlooked to someone who commands respect without ever begging for it? Here are the Machiavellian rules that work every single time. Rule 1. Speak less, act more. Most people drown themselves in words. They justify, over-explain, apologize, and run endless commentary on their choices. It's a nervous attempt to win understanding and soften resistance. But the more you talk, the more you reveal, and the more desperate you look. Powerful people do the opposite. They don't narrate their every move. They don't defend every decision. They don't hand out explanations to those who haven't earned them. Instead, they let their actions carry the weight. When a boundary is crossed, they don't give a lecture. They implement the consequence. When a decision is questioned, they don't beg for approval. They hold the line. Machiavelli put it perfectly. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. Translation: be smart enough to spot manipulation, but strong enough to show you won't tolerate it. You don't need long speeches. You need strategy and presence. Rule 2. Never chase approval. This is simple in theory, brutal in practice. Do not chase. Not texts, not attention, not validation. If they don't respond, you don't double down. If they're cold, you don't warm them up. If they disapprove, you don't scramble to fix it. The more you chase, the more you bleed power. The less you chase, the more magnetic you become. Think about it. Desperation is repellent. Indifference is intriguing. When you're unaffected by someone's reaction to you, they start to wonder why. That curiosity pulls respect toward you. Approval-seeking tells people you're beneath them. Indifference tells people you stand level or higher. Rule 3. Stay cold under attack. Respect isn't about avoiding conflict. It's about how you handle it when it comes. When someone provokes you, their goal is to see if they can move you. If you erupt in anger, they've proven you're controllable. If you get defensive, they know your buttons. But if you remain calm, icy calm, you show them they have no access to your strings. Coldness doesn't mean silence every time. It can mean a short reply delivered without heat. It can mean amusement, a smirk that says, "You really thought that would work?" It can mean disengaging entirely. The point is, you never let someone else set the temperature of your emotions. That's real psychological armor, and once people see they can't rattle you, they start to tread carefully. Rule 4. Stay unpredictable. Predictability is a gift to manipulators. If people know you'll always say yes, always forgive, always show up, they can build their whole strategy around that. Respect evaporates when you're an open book. Keep people guessing. Sometimes you help, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're available, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're generous, sometimes you're distant. Not to play games, but to protect your autonomy. The point isn't to confuse, it's to stay unowned. When people can't map your every move, they can't manipulate you. And when they can't manipulate you, they respect you. Machiavelli's advice was blunt. Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved. Don't be predictable in your softness or your ruthlessness. Be strategic in both. Rule 5. Enforce boundaries swiftly and silently. This might be the most important rule. Boundaries mean nothing if you don't enforce them. And when you enforce them, timing matters. The longer you wait, the weaker the lesson. The faster you respond, the clearer the message. And explanation is often wasted breath. When someone crosses you, don't announce, "This is my boundary." Don't deliver a speech about why respect matters. Just enforce it. Remove access. Say no. End the call. Decline the next invitation. A clean action beats a long explanation every time. Swift, silent consequences teach better than words. They tell the person, and everyone watching that your standards aren't suggestions, they're laws. Break them, and you pay. Rule 6. Scarcity and distance. Multiply power. Here's where most people misunderstand social dynamics. They think being constantly available makes them valued. In truth, it makes them forgettable. Scarcity creates value. Distance sharpens desire. The less people have of you, the more they appreciate what they do get. When you're always reachable, you become background noise. When you answer instantly, you become ordinary. When you forgive endlessly, you become disposable. But when you ration your time and attention, you force people to treat them like the rare currency they are. Look at the most respected figures in any group. They don't attend every gathering. They don't jump to respond instantly. Their presence is selective, and that selectiveness makes it special. People wait for their words. They measure their actions carefully. Their absence creates weight, which makes their presence powerful. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. For everyone can see and few can feel. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are." Less exposure, more impact. Less talk, more mystery. Less access, more magnetism. Practical examples. Instead of replying instantly to every message, reply when it fits your priorities. That delay raises your value. Instead of attending every invite, decline selectively. The ones you do accept will feel intentional, not obligatory. Instead of giving unlimited forgiveness, limit it. Once or twice, sure. Beyond that, you withdraw. Your forgiveness becomes precious instead of assumed. This isn't cruelty, it's economics. Supply and demand apply to humans too. The more common your presence, the less it's worth. The rarer your presence, the more people protect it. What happens when you live these rules? When you stop begging to be liked and start commanding respect, the world around you reorganizes. First, your relationships transform. Some will dissolve, and that's good. They were built on exploitation. The ones that remain will deepen because they're based on truth and mutual respect, not your desperation. Second, your confidence skyrockets. Not the shaky confidence that depends on praise, but the unshakable kind that comes from knowing your worth is non-negotiable. You'll stop second-guessing every move because your standard is your own, not the crowd's. Third, opportunities start chasing you. People seek your opinion because they know it's unfiltered. They invite you into rooms because they know you won't beg to be there. They promote you, hire you, or partner with you because you're not desperate, you're valuable. And fourth, your stress drops. You no longer carry the weight of pleasing everyone. You're not managing every emotion in the room. You're not living like a servant to approval. Life gets simpler, cleaner, lighter. But above all, you become free. Free from the trap of begging for validation. Free from the masks. Free from the strings others used to pull. That freedom is respect in its purest form. Self-respect first, and then the respect of others as a natural result. Let's lock in the principle. Respect is non-negotiable. Write it. Say it. Drop it in the comments if you're watching this as a video. I am unmovable. Because when you stop negotiating your worth, everyone else stops negotiating it too. Affirmation. I am unmovable. Let's drill deeper into one of the most misunderstood laws of respect. Scarcity. People assume the way to build stronger bonds is to be endlessly available, to say yes, to show up, to give more and more access. But human psychology runs on the opposite law. The more common something is, the less it's valued. And the rarer something is, the more people protect it. This is true in economics, and it's true in human dynamics. When you make your time, energy, and attention abundant, people treat them like cheap resources. They assume you'll always be there, so they stop appreciating your presence. They assume you'll always say yes, so they stop valuing your cooperation. They assume you'll always forgive, so they stop worrying about hurting you. But watch what happens when you reverse it. When your time becomes scarce, people start planning around it. When your energy becomes selective, people start competing for it. When your forgiveness has limits, people think twice before abusing it. Suddenly, what was once taken for granted is now treated like gold. Think about the people in any social group who seem to hold the most weight. They're never the ones who say yes to everything. They're never the ones chasing every interaction. They're the ones who appear when they choose to, leave when they're ready, and don't explain their absences. Their selective presence makes their actual presence magnetic. That's the real power of distance. It's not about coldness or cruelty. It's about strategy. You don't disappear out of spite. You manage your availability like a scarce asset. Machiavelli said it best. Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are. The less exposure you give, the more people wonder, and curiosity is power. How to use scarcity strategically stop instant replies. When you answer every message within seconds, you train people that your time is cheap. Respond when it works for you. Your pace sets the value. Decline selectively. Don't attend every hangout, meeting, or invite. Say no more often than yes. The events you do show up for will feel intentional, not obligatory. Guard your help. Helping everyone who asks spreads you thin and makes your effort worthless. Reserve it for those who show gratitude, respect, or reciprocity. Limit forgiveness. Forgiving once shows strength. Forgiving endlessly shows weakness. Put a cap on how many times someone can repeat the same behavior before you withdraw. Scarcity works like a self-reinforcing loop. The less available you are, the more people want your presence. The more they want it, the better they treat you to keep it. The better they treat you, the more selective you can afford to be. It becomes an upward spiral of respect and influence. Who leaves? When you create distance. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people will vanish when you start valuing your time. They'll accuse you of being distant, selfish, or arrogant. Good. These were never real relationships. They were dependencies built on your endless availability. When you pull back, those who only came for free access disappear. That's not a loss, it's a cleanup. What remains are the people who respect your boundaries and value your presence for what it is, not for what they can extract. Those are the relationships worth keeping. Distance creates clarity. Here's another hidden benefit. Perspective. When you're constantly entangled in other people's moods, needs, and demands, it's almost impossible to hear your own thoughts. You end up making decisions reactively, just to manage the noise around you. Distance quiets the noise. With space, you can actually see what you want. You can separate what serves your growth from what drains it. You can think strategically instead of emotionally. That's why the most powerful people often appear detached. They're not careless, they're careful. They keep enough distance to see clearly. What happens when you implement scarcity? When you actually start living by scarcity and distance, everything in your life shifts. Relationships reset. Some collapse, and that's a good thing. The ones that survive become deeper because they're built on respect instead of dependence. Confidence skyrockets. You stop questioning whether you're too much or not enough. Your confidence is rooted in the knowledge that your worth is non-negotiable. Opportunities find you. People start coming to you instead of you chasing them. They know you won't settle for scraps, so they bring better offers. Stress melts. You're no longer juggling everyone's emotions, apologizing for boundaries, or begging for approval. life simplifies. But the most important transformation is internal. You become psychologically free. You stop begging for permission to exist. You stop bending into shapes that please others. You stop chasing scraps of validation. Instead, you stand as yourself, unapologetic, solid, unmovable. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles." In other words, your value doesn't come from someone else's label or approval. It comes from how you carry yourself. When you walk with self-respect, titles and praise mean little. When you don't, no title or praise can save you. The temptation to slip back. Make no mistake, this shift won't be easy. You'll be tempted to slip back into old habits. When people get upset at your boundaries, you'll feel guilty. When people accuse you of being cold, you'll second-guess yourself. When silence fills the space where approval used to be, you'll want to run back and fill it. Don't. Sit with the discomfort. Because on the other side of it is a version of you that commands respect without ever demanding it. A version of you who no longer hands away power for free. A version of you who doesn't beg to be liked, but who stands tall enough to be respected. Lock in the scarcity mindset. Here's the line to burn into your memory. Respect is my birthright. Not approval, not applause. Respect. Drop it in the comments if you're watching this as a video. Write it in your notes if you're reading it here. Every time you enforce a boundary, every time you choose scarcity, every time you refuse to chase approval, remind yourself, respect is my birthright. Because the moment you start living as if that's true, everyone around you will treat it as true too. Affirmation. Respect is my birthright. We've walked through the traps of approval, the mechanics of respect, the Machiavellian rules, and the laws of scarcity. Now let's put it all together. What actually happens when you stop being liked and start being respected? The answer: everything changes. Your relationships transform. Not all of them, let's be clear. Some people will walk away when they realize they can't pull your strings anymore. They'll call you cold, selfish, or arrogant. Let them. Their exit is proof that the relationship was built on your compliance, not on truth. That's not love, it's dependence. But the ones who remain, the ones who adjust to your new standards, those relationships will deepen. Why? Because they're built on mutual respect. They're no longer feeding on your desperation. They're built on reality, not performance. You stop being liked for being agreeable and start being respected for being authentic. That's worth infinitely more. Your confidence becomes unshakable. There's a difference between fake confidence and real confidence. Fake confidence depends on applause. It's loud, but fragile. Real confidence doesn't need a crowd. It's quiet, steady, and rooted in self-respect. When you stop begging for approval, you stop second-guessing yourself. You don't need 100 people to agree with your choices. You only need yourself. And that shift is life-changing. You begin to move through the world with a kind of calm authority that people notice instantly. Opportunities start coming to you. Approval seekers chase opportunities. They beg to be noticed. They force themselves into rooms. They settle for scraps. People who command respect, they get invited. Opportunities come to them. Why? Because people trust them. Because their words carry weight. Because they're seen as leaders, not followers. It sounds paradoxical, but the less you chase, the more you attract. The less you explain, the more people want to hear from you. The less you beg, the more people offer. Scarcity plus respect equals magnetism. Your stress levels collapse. Approval seekers live in constant tension. Did I upset them? Should I apologize? Should I explain myself again? Should I try harder? It's a mental treadmill that never stops. And it's exhausting. But when you stop living for approval, the noise fades. You stop worrying about everyone else's emotions. You stop micromanaging how you're perceived. You stop performing. Suddenly, life feels simpler, cleaner, lighter. You can actually focus on what matters instead of burning energy managing what doesn't. You become psychologically free. This is the ultimate prize. Freedom. Freedom from the exhausting cycle of pleasing, apologizing, and explaining. Freedom from being someone different in every room. Freedom from chasing likes, compliments, and scraps of validation. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." Don't wait years to learn this lesson after being walked on, overlooked, and taken for granted. Don't wait until bitterness sets in to finally stand up. Do it now. Choose respect today. Because once you do, you step into a version of yourself that's been waiting for you all along. Someone who doesn't demand respect, but commands it. Someone who doesn't chase love, but attracts genuine loyalty. Someone who doesn't crumble when criticized, but stands firm, cold, and calm. Practical daily shifts. To make this real, start with small moves. Speak less. Cut explanations in half. Say no once a day, even to something small. Pause before replying to messages. Practice letting people be upset with you. Enforce one boundary without apology. Each small action builds a new identity. Over time, people stop seeing you as the one they can push around. They start seeing you as the one they can't afford to lose. The big picture. The world is full of people begging to be liked, smiling when they're disrespected, agreeing when they're overlooked, apologizing for existing. But it's starving for people who command genuine respect. People who know their worth, who enforce their standards, who carry themselves with calm strength. So the choice is in front of you. Do you want to be liked, or do you want to be respected? One path leads to exhaustion, manipulation, and invisibility. The other leads to freedom, influence, and power. The final step. If you've made it this far, you've already taken the first step. Most people can't even handle hearing this truth. They click away, they reject it, they go back to begging for approval. But you stayed. That means you're ready. The next step is implementation. Don't just nod along. Don't just think, that makes sense. Live it, test it, enforce it. Because respect isn't given, it's taken. Here's your final affirmation, the one to etch into your mind and into the comments if you're watching this as a video. Respect is my birthright. Not because someone gave it to you, not because you earned it by pleasing others, but because you decided it was non-negotiable. Live from that place and watch how your life transforms. Affirmation: respect is my birthright.